Sara, I am so delighted to have you on the show today to discuss this book. Welcome.
It's my deepest honor to be here with you again. Thank you so much for inviting me back into your space.
How could I not? It was not that long ago where you shared with us your decision that you were going to write this book, and to see it all come to life together in real time is just incredible. So, first of all, congratulations. Let's just start by, why don't you just give us the backstory? Tell us about your book and why you wrote it and why now.
Goodness, how much time do we have, Pia? Um, so I've been a brand strategist and had my own business for 7 years. And we all know and we say regularly that owning and running your own business is the greatest exercise in personal development that you will ever have. And I have experienced that in so many waves and layers over the years. And yet there is kind of like what I like to call like a box. It's like this thing that you're like, I'm willing to share and talk about and be vulnerable in every other area of my life, but like don't open my box. And I think to some degree, we all have got like a box of some kind. And for me, my body and my physicality and the space that I take up in the world, not just like from an energetics and a personality space, but like in a physical space, has always kind of been my box. And when you get to a place where you just absolutely cannot keep the lid on that box anymore, it will find its way to open. And for me, that box lid came flying off. And it happened on the other side of losing a pretty significant amount of weight. And I found that I was really triggered. And it just became the thing that I just could not talk about anymore. And yet it had been the thing that I convinced myself that I didn't want to talk about. I'd said out loud to my friends and my family and my community, like, don't ask me about this. I don't want to talk about it. This is not a thing that I want to bring up. And I think that I should have known better that saying that out loud would be the very thing that would unravel right before my very eyes. And so it just became this undoing and unlearning in this process and became the very thing that I had to actually share. And as it would be, it's the message that absolutely everybody else needs also. And then keeping that message hidden became selfish instead of self protective.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And that's really interesting that that was the catalyst. It was actually, well, why don't you give the audience a high level summary of the book before we continue talking about it?
Yeah, that would probably be helpful. So the book is called Do It Fat, an unapologetic guide to taking up more space regardless of your size. And the book is can really be honestly summarized as a cultural critique with layered personal story where I am in real time, honestly, working through why have I held such contempt for my body, my home, this physical experience that I have walking around in the world. Why is it that I've hated it for so many years for my life? Why is it that I wanted to put that lid on the box? Why is it that I never wanted anybody to see me, really see me? Like, I want you to see how smart I am. I want you to see how successful I am and how strategic and funny and kind and all of these other things I could think of, as long as you didn't ever observe my physicality or my physical body. And I just kind of came to the end of myself in that space and finally decided to pull the trigger on some health decisions for myself. And I lost, currently, I'm sitting at about 75 pounds, so a pretty significant amount of weight. And it really forced me to look in the mirror and say, if I don't figure out why I have spent so much time hating my own body and spending so much time and energy and effort trying to get people to look away from it, then what is that going to leave me in the future of myself? Like, my body's changed a lot and it could possibly change again as we age and get older. And if I don't figure this out, then I'm constantly going to be chasing a goalpost that is going to be moving every single chance it gets. And so for me, it just became this opportunity to unpack everything and figure out why. And you will not be surprised in any way to know that at the bottom of that unpacking, I found a combination of capitalism and patriarchy and racism as the reasons why women hate their bodies. And so it does seem sort of counterintuitive that I found so much freedom other end for my body on the other end of some weight loss. However, I really truly can sit in integrity and say that it wasn't the loss of pounds that made me unpack this and finally like release all of these expectations. It was the thing that forced me to take a hard look in the mirror and figure out why we feel this way. And I felt a lot of wave of emotions spanning from anger all the way through more anger. But at the end of this, like I'm sitting in such an embodied and peaceful place now because it's given me so much permission to just let go.
Wow. It is so brave to be so vulnerable and, in your words, open the very box that you are keeping secret. And I know how much this is going to resonate with every single body. I mean, I don't think I was going to say women, but I know men struggle with this too. And it's a universal struggle. And it may look slightly different depending on the person and their body, but it's absolutely a universal struggle. And it makes me tear up even thinking about it. It's such a powerful thing to do. And I think it's something that most people don't have the bravery to do. So first of all, just thank you for being willing. It seems like you were like, forget it, I had to. I remember when you told us about it, you were like, I just must write this book and I must write it right now. It seemed almost like it was going to burst out of you. That's how much you needed to write it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've come to understand that I'm not the type of person that sits on something for very long. You know, if I have an idea or a nudge or a breadcrumb, then I'm pretty active in terms of following it. And I think that that's pretty true for a lot of ambitious people. A lot of people in our community tend to be that way. So I just knew that, yeah, like you said, like it was bursting out. It was like, I need to do this now because if I wait too much longer, I might lose my nerve, first of all. But also, once you start to see, you can't unsee. And so you start to really put your attention and your focus on these issues and you start to see the patterns and you start to say like, oh, there's so many synergies of my lived experience and what I'm personally experiencing and what I'm hearing in the world or what I'm seeing in other communities that I'm a part of. And it just became more of a place of service of like every single person that I have talked to about this project has shared some sort of vulnerable story with me about a time that they felt that in time that they felt outside of their body or they felt self-conscious or really about when they chose to stay small, stay hidden, and not take action on their biggest vision because of how they felt in their body. And that's really what the book is seeking to unpack is, hey, how many businesses and stories and service and solutions and incredible things are not being brought to light, are not being brought to market, are not being put out into the world because of how we feel about our bodies. And I want to speak a little bit to, kind of this being impactful across genders. It absolutely is. I would say though that just writing from my own experience that a lot of the book is aimed at women's experiences and how we have personally been affected by just the expectation that in order to be seen and visible and powerful that you have to exist in a really narrow definition of what a body is. And so I can only speak to the experience that I have living in this world as a woman. And so I really do write from that perspective, but I think the message in and of itself is really applicable.
Sure, absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit? I have so many questions. Well, first, as you were talking, could you give us maybe a little sneak peek? Like, will you tell us one of the stories that you shared, maybe an unexpected example of how this may have stopped you or somebody else from showing up or doing something that was important?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've tried to do is make sure that this was not a book about branding. And that's obviously the service that I offer and the expertise that I carry. But I just felt so strongly that like nobody needed another book about branding, really. What we needed was another book that was going to help us step into our power and to claim our visibility. And so I'm not sharing specific stories about specific clients. However, they really are one of the reasons why I felt like this book needed to come to light, is because there's just so many instances where I'm working with clients and they say things like, "Oh, do we have to do a brand photo shoot?" Or "I don't love that photo," or, they start like self-deprecating words and behavior. And I saw this in them. And it's so easy to be a champion for other people and so hard for us to be a champion for ourselves. It was so easy for me to celebrate the diversity and the inclusion and the beauty of all bodies in everyone else. And yet I couldn't find the courage to do that for myself. So I think that, again, like I said, while this is not a book about branding, it is I do look at this through the lens of branding in my work, because so many of my clients have perhaps quieted their voices for so long because they didn't want to be seen. And this is really a book about visibility and about permission, because when we believe that we don't deserve that, and I don't mean like on the surface level, like we could say, oh, of course I deserve that, but our limiting beliefs go a lot deeper than that. And we might be keeping ideas to ourselves, or we might be scared to put something out there. We might be scared to step on stage or turn the camera on. We might be scared to really, really be seen. And you can't be seen without being seen in your physical self. And we have to find some peace and some solidarity in that in order to be able to see our biggest vision forward. So just really seeing that in my clients and having that reflected back to me was a really powerful mirror.
I can imagine I've had the same experience. I mean, very much so in women as opposed to men. But I mean, you mention a photo shoot to almost any woman, and they're like, okay, just wait till I lose 10 pounds, or like, just wait till my blah, 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 blah. So I think everyone can relate to that. And it's actually so pervasive that it's almost like, it's really kind of fascinating to even acknowledge it when it's almost just how we all operate in the world.
Yeah.
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 Well, tell me, it's a touchy topic for most people. What were you, obviously, you mentioned you're like little, I wouldn't have the nerve to do it. Like, what were your biggest fears about writing this and putting this out there?
So many. I mean, like I said, there's just obviously like being seen and saying hard things out loud for myself. But one of the areas of personal growth that I've been working on is the courage to be misunderstood. And what I mean by that is I have really always been okay with not being liked as long as I wasn't misunderstood. So if you don't like me because of who I am, then I'm 100% okay with that. But if you don't like me because of a thing that's not really true, or like a misunderstanding, then that sits a little harder for me. I have a really hard time with that. And I think that these conversations are not black and white. They are deeply nuanced and deeply layered. And when people don't when they don't read the book, if you will, when they don't read all the chapters, when they don't have all the information, I think that they might be able to arrive at some conclusions that would be misunderstood. And that was probably the biggest thing that I've had to and am still actively working on letting go of, is people not getting it. Because I was mostly scared about coming off kind of like a hypocrite. Like, you can't exist in this nuance of being really body positive and claiming this activation for people and saying like, go and do it fat. It doesn't matter what you look like. You can do the big thing in the world, and like holding that truth. And then also at the same time saying that like that truth arrived in my experience off the back of a pretty significant weight loss. And how do you hold those two truths in the same experience? And what I'm asking for people to have in this is a lot of nuance, because I'm finding that that tension for myself is pretty present in a lot of other people's experiences also. And the biggest thing that I've learned is, how can we, one, go deeper and not like arrive at a conclusion immediately? get more information before we form our opinions about a person or an experience. And then two is not expecting that our experience of something is the standard, and understanding that I can own my own truth and my own experience 100% without making that be like an expectation for how someone else needs to be or live or exist in the world. And that, again, holding two truths. There's a chapter in the book called Two Truths and a Lie. And I just think that we need more tension. We need more nuance. We need more depth and more layers and not less. And I'm really hoping that readers are going to be able to like go into this as more of a conversation rather than an absolute.
Oh my gosh, that's like a whole other book topic, Sarah. I mean, that is
Don't
one
get me
of the
started, Pia.
that is one of the hardest things I think for humans. It's almost like our brain is wired to project. That's projection, right? To believe. Well, I experienced it like this, so therefore that's how it is. It is so hard to imagine.
It's such a binary. It's saying like there's only one truth in the world, and if your truth is, you know, if you are saying this is true, then that's in conflict with my personal experience, then somehow you have to be wrong. Or that's going to cause me to, because then I must be wrong. And it's like putting these two things in opposition to each other and saying like, gosh, they just don't have to be. Like, it's totally possible for you to have a wildly different answer and for that to be true while I have my truth too, and that those two things can coexist.
Well, not only that, that is what's happening all the time, right? Like no two people staring at the exact same sunset are experiencing it the exact same way. I mean, there's the idea that we think that's happening because we're not really thinking about it. I mean, this is every marital spat for me, so I'm very familiar with this disagreement. I believe that
so
happened for
pervasive.
you. I believe that that's how you experienced it. Also me and my experience. So yeah, I can imagine that that would be very challenging. We're the same like Enneagram and all of those things, right? Because everything out of your mouth.
We have such parallel lives.
We really do. Yeah, the idea of being misunderstood. And I'm sure our listeners can really relate to that, especially because of, I mean, I know this is not an episode about our branding businesses or advice for our branding listeners or our small business clients. And at the same time, it is 100% on the nose related, because when you are a small business, it is about, to your point, being seen. It is about being able to show up as your full self. This is 100% at the core of having a brand. And if you can't fully own yourself or don't want to be seen, it is impossible to build a really big, strong brand. And it's very hard to get any business, because you can't, if you aren't willing to market yourself, you will never get clients. Although we do encounter so many people who have that exact tension in their lives where they don't want to be seen at all, but they really want to have clients and a business. And talk about two opposing ideas. Those can both be true, but they might not lead to the answer that you want.
Yeah. And I think honestly, like we talk inside of our program a lot about like that one big idea and the thing that you can really own. And I think that that has really evolved for me, because the thing that I thought was my one big idea, it still is to some degree, but like I feel like you get more depth and you build more complexity into your business and your life, and that evolves or shifts or takes a back seat to like what's the next one big idea. And I never in a million years would have thought that Do It Fat would be my one big idea, and yet it's kind of like when you find the thing that resonates, that deeply resonates with people, it's not going to be about your services. It's not going to be about the thing you do. It's not going to be about the case studies. It's going to be about your lived experience and how people can relate to it, and the thing that you have that nobody else has, and what is actually ownable. And for me, like, every opportunity that has come through this is when I was willing and courageous enough to say, like, I'm going to own this idea. And this is a part of what I'm attaching to my brand and myself. And that, honestly, I think I even had to work through that with you and the community too, is like, I didn't want to be known for body positivity like that. Not that I want to be distanced from it, but like that wasn't my lane. It wasn't the thing I was trying to get known for. I want to be known for branding. And yet, like, I will be known for branding because I went through this like this way about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's when I got a TED Talk, and it's when, people have very easily like clung to this idea. Again, like it's surprising and yet not surprising at the same time, because it's like the universe is working in magical ways to say like, oh yeah, wink wink, the thing that you thought was going to be in your box forever is actually the thing that will make you wildly known and wildly successful. You were courageous enough to say the hard thing out loud.
Which, I mean, another book for you to write in the future.
So many books, Pia, so
So many
many.
books. I love it. I'll have to think more about that. But the idea that the thing that you're trying to hide is like, if it's not it, it is the key to unlocking the thing that is going to connect with people most deeply, because it is almost the most core, like, not the, but a core motivator for you, reason that you do the things. I've always thought about, I remember learning this a long time ago, and I really see it, like our fears are often what drives a lot of our decisions without us understanding it. And I feel like this is a kind of a version of that. Like what I'm hearing you say also is it's not something that you can kind of decide. Like we teach building authority, and we say like, come up with your big idea. Like you're not going to decide it when you're like thinking of your big idea in the beginning. It is something that you have to evolve into, which just requires you to show up and do the things a long time to finesse it, to find it, to uncover it. And those are things that can't be rushed, but they can only be found if you actually keep, like, who is it that says like, I don't care about your opinion if you're not on the field. You got to be on the field doing this stuff. Brene Brown. Yeah.
It's always Mama Brene.
Yeah, she nailed it, right? And so you've been on the playing field this whole time, and that's how you arrived at this. Even though, as soon as you said it, I was like, I cannot believe that book doesn't exist, actually. So it was there for you. It was like beaming down to you. Like you had to write it. I totally felt that.
I think that again, there's a lot of people that are, in fact, like body positive champions, and that's their thing, that's their lane. And I think what gave me so much permission is because, like we talked about, like with the client interaction, like I had this really unique perspective and really unique kind of lens into this topic via my work and via my branding. And really not coming from a place of like, you should just be confident because you should be confident, but from a place of like, your lack of confidence feels like such a surface word now, but your lack of willingness to be visible because of how you feel about your body is actively keeping you from doing the thing you want to do in the world. And I'm interested in helping people bring those things to the world and bring those things to life and bring those ideas and become known for something. But this was an active blocker, an active obstacle. And so it really gave me permission to like look at this whole topic from a really unique lens and completely solidify what I believe is still my authority in branding, while also talking about a subject kind of adjacent to it. I think that even, and I know you've experienced this too in client work, where someone will say like, hey, this is the thing that makes me totally different. And you're like, yeah, not really. Like, have you like even been online for 5 minutes? Like that is not that unique. Like it's not special. It's not unique. It doesn't, like 1,000 people are saying that same thing. Like we need to employ a little bit of self-awareness in that. And we can see so many people who talk about, branding. There's so many people out there talking about this topic, but I don't believe that anybody is talking about it this way and through this lens and layered with personal experience. And so I think that that gave me like a position that was uniquely mine. And of course, from a branding perspective, we're always looking for that too.
I agree. And I'm curious actually, because not that it isn't a body positivity book, but that's not how I am categorizing it in my head. Is that how you're categorizing it?
Ooh, no, not necessarily, but it is like adjacent. Like it would fit into that. And a lot of the research that I have like taken on has been looking at other books like in that like empowerment, like body empowerment and body positivity kind of space. So I don't know that I would categorize it necessarily as that, but it's definitely not like a business book either.
I guess I feel like it's not to say that the body positivity movement isn't deep, but it's like it feels deeper than that. It feels like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
using the body positivity as an opening to something that is I mean, to your point, it's like you lost all this weight and that's how you were able to access it. It's not that's
Yeah.
why it feels that was just the opening.
Different.
Yes, not
Yeah. I do. Yeah, I totally
I
agree.
mean,
And I
not to
think also
question your book. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm just giving you my
it,
gut reaction, and I mean, I think it's a positive one. I'm like, this goes so much deeper than that. Yeah, into people's core. Sorry, keep going.
no, I think to your point also when you're creating something new, it's kind of hard to categorize in and of itself
Right.
anyways. So
It'll probably be on the
it's
body positivity shelf, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it would belong next to the Brene Brown book instead.
yeah, it's I would okay, so if we had to categorize it, I would definitely say like personal development, like with a body positive and entrepreneurship spin.
Yeah, I love that for you.
There, we did that. We did it. We got there.
We did it.
We just
Can you
needed to talk it
guys,
through.
Barnes and Noble, can you make a section?
I'm gonna need a category shelf for that, please.
I'm going to.
But from a branding perspective, to bring it back again, we're always looking to be
Yeah.
in a category of one. So
That's true. That's
maybe I
true.
did it.
Don't put us in a box. Tell me a little bit about, I know that we discussed it in our small, intimate mastermind group that is the No BS team. I know you then brought it and shared it with our communities soon after. I know you've been sharing it with your communities in different ways. Like, what role has that played and how has that helped support you?
I don't think that any of us could be brave, be bold, be as courageous as we want to be in a silo on our own. I think that we get in our head and we talk ourselves out of things. And there's just something about having people in your corner that gives you room and space to go do big things. Because so many of us, if we look around and we say, like, hey, you know what? Like, everybody could be mad about this. Like, everybody in the world could hate this. And yet, if I had my community in my corner and if I had them have my back, then, like, all right. Like, then I feel like, okay, well, I'm not crazy. I'm supported. And I think there's just something about having a handful, even just a handful of people that are there, that are cheering you on, that have your back, that are going to support you. And that it just like makes the rest of the world's opinions seem smaller. And I just don't think any of us could really bring the things to the world and into the light that we wanted to if we didn't have people who had our backs in that way. And so the No BS community has been just invaluable to me. Next month, it will be 4 years since I have like joined and been a part of this community. And I just am so grateful. I can't even imagine my life or my business like without these people, because this has not just become like this digital online community. These are my people. These are the people that I turn to and the people who support me and the people who cheer me on and the people who challenge me and the greater No BS community, of course. But as you mentioned, like joining the No BS team a couple of years ago and coaching inside of that space has just created this really beautiful little container of us to go deeper and really share at an even more profound level. And gosh, do not say out loud a thing you want to do around a bunch of ambitious women if you do not want to be held to the fire. I think I had like briefly uttered wanting to write this book, and I believe it was Erica who like was not gonna let me off the hook. She was like, "What were you saying about that?" I was like, "No, it's okay. I don't really." And she's like, "No, really. What are you saying about that? I think you should tell everybody about your book." And I'm like, Ugh, okay, okay, fine. She was not gonna let me off the hook. Like I think, whispered it, and she heard it, and was like, "Louder, please." And I like just didn't really have a choice, honestly. So I spoke those words, and honestly, it gave everybody there an opportunity to challenge the like mental gymnastics that I was doing around this, and to land and courage to like walk out of that space and be like, all right, I guess we're going I guess we're going to do this. I guess this is what's happening. And to know that you have people that are not just going to like cheer you on in that moment, to be like, "Hey, so how's that going? How's that book going?" and to know that they are going to champion you like every step of the way, but they're also going to hold you accountable to your biggest dreams, and that you can't put a price on.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing moment. I remember exactly when Erica called you out. We were all like, wait, you have a book? What? Do
Oh,
tell,
no, no,
do tell.
I don't have, okay, but also I do think that it's worth mentioning like the context in which we were like having that moment. It wasn't just like sitting around at a coffee shop. Like we were having this very physical experience inside of the bathhouse. And there was this moment, and I, in my mind, like tie these together, letting people kind of in to the back end a little bit here. But we had come to this bathhouse and they had spas and saunas and cold plunges, and I had never done a cold plunge before in my life. And you were talking about the first time that you had ever done one, and a coach that had told you about like how to do it and what the best way was. And I think you had said that your first one was like 12 minutes because you were like, well, I don't remember if that was the number, but hey, like if I'm going to do this, like I'm going to do it.
No, no, it was because it wasn't a coach, it was Priya. And she said, well, we need to do it for 12 minutes. And I had no context. So I was like, I guess we're doing it for 12 minutes. So I didn't know that
Any
anything else was
better?
an option. That's what happened.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you walked us through like, hey, if you can breathe and do deep breathing and get through the first 60 seconds, then like on the other side of that, it's okay. And I don't know what came over me, but I was like, I'm going to do that. And I just decided in that moment. And for me, I'm like tying that back to not only the moment where like Erica called me out and like I was sharing about this book for the first time, but also the experience of like a physical embodiment and my mind, and the tying of those two were like a connection that I really needed to make, because that was really what I was after, was like embodiment. And I had spent my whole life like so disconnected from my physical self, and we were in a moment where not only was I being vulnerable about this project, but also being asked to do something very physical and to leverage the power of my mind in order to do something that physical. And there's just some like very profound connection in having those two experiences within the context of like a couple of hours, all within this community, that like something in my brain like clicked with that. And I did an 8-minute cold plunge.
Oh my God, it was so amazing. It was your first one. And I remember what I said, but you were like, oh, I said mind over matter. I was like, your mind is stronger than that or something. I don't even remember what I said, but you were like, oh, you said that. And I was like, well, dang, now I gotta, now I gotta stay in.
It was like a personal challenge. Like, oh, well,
Yeah.
Pia said that this is the standard, so I guess that's what we're doing. And like, it just allowed me the opportunity to prove to
Mhm.
myself that like there was that possibility for me, that like mind body connection was in fact true, and that like that connection had not been severed permanently.
That's awesome. That is beautiful. And it's also just such a great metaphor, right? You just said, well, I guess I'm going to do this. And then you said that about the cold plunge, and then you said it about the book. And here we are, not even 6 months later, talking about it. I mean, it's
Here we are.
amazing. It's like I just watched a tree bloom and grow right in front of me. It's so awesome.
Is like the
Uh,
power of deciding is so important, you know? Like just make a
yes.
decision and march boldly in that direction. And there's just so much power in our own personal agency.
And it's, not that we always have to tie it back to business, but I feel like it is one of the core ideas that helps people be successful in business. It's, you know what, come hell or high water, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. And there will be challenges along the way, but I will not deviate from trying it until I make it happen. And decisiveness is also a really key ingredient. And it's something that I know a lot of people really struggle with, but it is something you can build a habit around. And the more times you can be decisive and just go boldly, regardless of the outcome, the more I think strength you'll have to do it in the future.
Oh my gosh, of course. Like I have found that a deep and profound connection, and like you said, decisiveness to like the vision is so important. And giving yourself to say, like, if I want to change my mind in the future, if I want to change the vision in the future, then that's totally fine. But where I stand today, where I am in this moment, I'm going to plant my feet and I'm going to do the thing. And I think that so many people feel kind of in that wishy-washy, like, well, if I make a decision and change my mind later, like, put yourself on the path, and new opportunities and new like options are going to reveal themselves, but you can't make a decision from a place of like being in the messy like indecisiveness. Like, you have to plant your feet, you have to decide. And I think we just, at least in my case, like prove to ourselves that we're capable of a lot more than we actually give ourselves like original credit for. And this year has been for me about like really owning that. Like, I wanted to do a conference style live event. I've never done that before. And I just said I was going to do it. It turns out it was pretty great. You know, like it turned out amazing. And now I have that foundation and like the ability to say, oh, now I have data to back up the fact that I can do it. But you don't get any of that if you don't swing for it the first time.
And to keep going on that metaphor, like you can't dip your toe in at all. You have to go boldly. I will tell you that I go to bathhouse a lot, and I go in the cold plunge, and always as we sit there like breathing, people come in, scream, get out, like, you know, they walk in slow. And we're always like,
You gotta just
lecturing them. We're like, listen, it's never going to happen like that. You know, you're not going to slow. This is not the beach, and you're not going to get used to the water. You need to decide, I'm going in and I'm going to stay in for a certain amount of time. And I'm going to breathe through it and make it happen. And I guess everyone listening, you just need to go do this cold plunge so that you can then realize that you can do hard things, and then you can.
It's wild because it's such like a physical expression of
It
the
is.
mental struggle, and finding that like mind body connection is like was a really big unlock for me. Honestly, one of my favorite memories is as we're sitting here doing this 8-minute cold plunge, there's all these like very burly, like massive dudes that are coming in, and they, like you said, like dip their toe and like, oh, and then they like can't handle it. And then we got like such respect from them being like, oh, these ladies up in here are like handling it like a boss. And I just love I can do anything better than you can do it moment. Like, I thrive off of that. So that just
such
gave
a
me
flex. It's such a flex, and it's such a flex,
I love
especially
it.
to these dudes.
I needed that. I was like, yep, that will motivate me. If you tell me that a man can do something and I can't, then move hell or high water, I will figure out how to do it.
With you, Enneagram 3, whatever we are. Sara, we're going to link to the book. Do It Fat is out now because we are publishing this when it's out. Everybody listening, go pick up a copy, give it to somebody, buy a copy for somebody else. This is a wonderful holiday gift, if I may. Go write a review, because we all know reviews help. We are all here to support you, Sara. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. Thank you for writing this book, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much for, gosh, where do I even begin? Like, this community, and for your mentorship, and honestly, like the ability to be seen and held and encouraged and challenged in all of the very best ways. Like, please never not do this, because this community has meant so much to me in all of the personal and professional ways. So I'm so grateful for you for cultivating it and creating it and inviting me in.
Grateful for you, Sara. Thanks so much for being here. Mwah.